Manx Radio Sport.
Good evening and welcome back to Friday Sport Preview on Manx Radio with me, Rob Pritchard, and the team to take the latest look at the sporting action on the Isle of Man and beyond this weekend. So, coming up tonight, just 1 point separates the top four in the Candlelight Men's Premier League as we go into the latest football fixtures. We'll also be hearing from the manager of a top-flight side looking to chase that quartet at the summit. A busy weekend in Manx rugby awaits in which Douglas Vagabonds and Vagabonds Ladies all return to action. Two of the mixed Premier League heavyweights collide on Saturday as league matches resume in hockey. And can one of the island's pro boxers extend his unbeaten record this Sunday? That is all to come this evening. A very good evening. Welcome to Friday Sport Preview here on Manx Radio on this crisp and fair evening across our wonderful isle out there. Let's hope that weather continues throughout the winter. Well, wishful thinking anyway. Well, turning our attention to what is yet another busy schedule across Manx football, rugby and hockey and more besides. Taking a look at football first, and the battles really are intensifying already at this early stage across the respective divisions. And to go through it, as always, is Tony Mepham. Tony, very good evening.
Evening, Rob. Weather's good. Let's go.
Indeed. Well, let's dive straight into it then. We're going to start with taking a look at the Canada Life Men's Premier League. All games kicking off at 2:30pm, as are all games on Saturday with one exception. And, well, there are two massive games involving the top four sides at the top flight this weekend. Starting off over at Andros Playing Fields, the defending champions Ayr United looking to try and keep up their unbeaten record along with Peel at the top, up against a Foxdale side who, despite a setback last weekend, Tony, still fourth in the table. Great fixture this could be.
It is, and there's some really juicy fixtures coming up in weeks to come as well. But when you look at that league table, it's so interesting. I was just looking at there, down to ninth there. There's teams there looking to get into the Railway Cup. And at the moment, Peel and Ayr have got the consistency. And Ayr United did well against Corinthians. Good show by them. Didn't let the Whites in there. And when you look at Sean Kelly at the moment, he's marching on, isn't he, with plenty of goals. Good to see Danny Oram back in the team as well. And Johnny Shields, I think, is due to come back in very, very shortly if he gets himself sort of fit.
He was playing last weekend at Union.
Did he? That's good, because I knew he was due to come in any time. And when you just look right the way across the team, some good performance by Nathan Tier, Jamie Callister as well. It's looking really good. But what a blip that was 7 days ago, wasn't it? Against Onken. Never saw that one coming because Foxdale, when the result was adjusted with Foxdale and St John's with the rule infringement, Foxdale was sitting there pretty in second place, but suddenly they come against a really strong Onken side for once this season, and 4-1 loss for them, and it just puts a little bit of doubt in the people's minds there. But they've still got a tremendous forward line. Steve Pritchard will be suspended, but Foxdale going to find it difficult against Ayr.
Well, from Andros Playing Fields to Glen Road, and two sides that we know the potential they've got and the way they can potentially challenge some of the teams above them at this stage. But just looking for a bit of consistency, maybe. Laxey versus St Mary's tomorrow. Yeah,
and I think Johnny Palmer will be saying later on consistency in his team selection as well. It's not his fault, but players keep getting whatever, going away, FC Isle of Man, injured, and it's caused them problems to get a steady side. But some of the performances and the results that they've had, I know they battered Corinthians, and fair play to them for sort of picking themselves up. But against St Mary's, I watched them last week. It was a hard game for them, and Joe Burquist is definitely an outlet down that right hand side. Owen Canoper's in there, but Owen didn't get too many chances, and I thought Frank Jones was a little bit quiet really, because the integral part of St Mary's is getting the best out of Frank, but certainly against Laxey with maybe the team that Johnny's got available to him at the moment should go well, and one or two sort of players have come back in. Ethan Hawley won, and I'm sure that his squad's going to be pretty strong for tomorrow's game against St Mary's, so you have to go with Laxey.
Well, we mentioned Onken before and that big result they got against Foxdale last weekend. They're back on home soil and they're up against Russian United, Tony, and with Onken picking up that, I think, surprise result, just given the run of games that we'd seen already, coming up against the Russian United side at home, do you think the hosts will fancy their chances here?
I think they will, because it's all about confidence, isn't it? And, you have some games where it just goes totally against you, and other games it just sort of clicks. And when I watched Onken play against Peel, I thought that they're a reasonable side because they're the promoted side. But since then, they've marched on, and last week was great. Andy Asbridge in the squad scoring goals, and he's a big part for it. But, just right the way through, they've sort of just been patient. And when you look at that league table now, okay, they're third from bottom, still on those 3 points. But they'll be going for Russian, because I think Russian are the sort of side that Onken could beat. But I'm sure that Andrew Moody will be trying to get his troops going there, get some goals, keep it nice and tight at the back. Mark Blair's in goals, but I think the way Onken played last week might just follow through this week, so I'll go for Onken.
Wait and see. And then next up, well, this could be a cracker of a game as well. We mentioned that the top four were all facing each other this weekend. Ayr United and Foxdale facing each other. And at Douglas Road, Tony, this is the game you're going to be going to tomorrow. Peel, the current tabletop, is ahead of Ayr United on goal difference at the moment. And like Ayr, undefeated. The last two remaining undefeated sides in top flight up against the Corinthian side, who've really impressed at the start of this season. Well,
they have. And I think, I'll speak to Johnny later on. But certainly Corinthians, I've seen the team for tomorrow. No Nathan Little. He'll play for FC Alabama. I think he's in the squad. That's a loss because he's been tremendous this year, but defensively is where is key, I think, for Peel, because I think Peel's defence, you can get at him. And I'm not being horrible, it just depends who's available, because when you look at Andrew Crennel, you've got Aaron Costain, they've been struggling with injury. When you look at Danny Lacey's come in, but Danny's superb, but he's done it all and he's been around for a long, long time. I'm trying to be polite here, but he's still a tremendous player. So that's key for them. But I think Joe Middleton, the form he's been in, also Jan Marquez back in the squad, that helps. And I chip on about it every week, but I think Noah Vowles on that right-hand side has been incredible. Two centre-backs will be Darren Kane and Stewie Smith. Their key point, their job, they know what they've got to do, is keep Thomas Brown under control, because him and Rhys Oates have been fantastic up front. And I think one or two of the younger players as well have really stepped up. I think Izzy Dunn has improved so much, I think, over the last 12 months. And Scott Horn on that left-hand side. So you got Matthew Woods in there. It's going to be a tough game, but I just think home advantage, Peel will sneak it.
Well, two more games of the Canada Life Men's Premier League tomorrow, and one of those up north at the Ballaclone Stadium sees Ramsey yet to hit the sort of form and standards so far that they set themselves last season. Very high bar indeed, up against a Marown side desperately in need of points.
They certainly are. Played 6, no points, and I'm surprised with that. And they've just got to keep going, because the players are there, and it's near enough, I keep saying it, the same squad as last year. But when you look at Ramsey, much improved last week. Dylan Pickles, he seemed to take a nasty injury with the shoulder. I haven't heard anything, so if he's missing, that's a bit of a minus for them, because he can score goals. But just, the effort that Ramsey put in, the organisation is good, and I just think Ramsey will prove too strong from around.
And the last game in the Premier League is at Glencrutchery Road, St George's up against the Union Mills side, and having watched them personally last weekend and reported on the game against Ayr United, gave a good account of themselves despite losing out in the end.
Yeah, they did, and I think Ryan Kelly's done a really good job for them. He's very motivated on that sideline, and it does kick into the players as well. When you look at, right the way through, and Dominic McCarry-Brennan is a really good player, and you don't like seeing players who've stayed with the club for a while. He was at Douglas Royal, but it just seems to have given him a new lease of life. He's playing with better players, and when you look defensively, Nathan Yates and Owen Quayle in there, Will Miller, they've looked really strong. Mason Prince is a good goalkeeper. St George's, I looked at their squad last week, Rob, and it was pretty good. It was Chris Bass was in there, Sean Quay's in there, and others. I think Morgan Naylor's available. He's a cracking player. I just don't think St George have got enough, and I'm going to go for Union Mills to take victory.
Very well. Into Ardern and Drugger Limited Division 2, and there's a cracking battle going on at the top here as well. And what's going to be interesting is the current leaders, Braddon, they're on a rest week this week, so that'll open the door potentially for Michael United in second and Douglas High School Old Boys in third. Both Michael and Old Boys on the same amount of points, but Old Boys with 2 games in hand. Old Boys are at home to Castletown, and Michael United are on the road at Maloo.
It's a big game for Division 2, I think, because Old Boys Castletown, Old Boys have come really good. And when you look at the league table, they've played 2 games less than the 2 top sides, but they're only 3 points behind the league leaders. And I've seen them, and they're a very young side now, Douglas High School Old Boys, and I didn't see that one coming. So credit to Old Boys for attracting them younger players. And when you look at them in the under-18s league, they're absolutely flying, playing with a lot of flair, and they're bringing that into the first team. Castletown, again, it's Nathan Cardy's show at the moment, isn't it? And he's scoring the goals for them, and with Alex Crawley back in there, if you could score goals and defend, then you've got a good chance. But I just think Old Boys at the moment are really strong. Martin King, Robbie Ward in there. They're just flying, absolutely flying, and I expect another 3 points on the board for Old Boys.
And let's not forget 2 other games there involving 2 sides who, let's be fair here, Tony, should Michael United or Old Boys slip up, could be very much potentially taking advantage this weekend, depending on how results go. Colby and Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys not far behind as well. Colby are away at Douglas Royal, and Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys are at Pulrose.
Yeah, you'd expect Colby to beat Douglas Royal. I think Colby have got one or two key players in there who can pull it off for them. So I'm going to go for Colby. Michael against Malou. Malou, was it last week they couldn't field a team because players were away? But Michael United don't let it slip like they did last year. If you remember, we were looking at this Division 2 and it was just fantastic to watch. But then suddenly Michael collapsed in the halfway stage and they were chasing the tail a little bit then. But they can score goals right the way through. They've got some good players in there. And at the moment, Michael are looking a lot more stable, I think, and some big scorelines that they've won by. So I'm going to go for Michael to win. And then Pulrose United against Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys. I'm going to go for Ramsey Youth Centre. They've got away with that sort of bad start that they had and now pulling it together, and I think it's another 3 points on the board for them.
Very well. Very quickly we'll take a look through the respective combination leagues. We've got 6 games in Canada Life Combination 1. One of those is the early kick-off this weekend. Early
kick-off 1:45, and that's St Mary's against Laxey. I'll go with St Mary's to win that one. Corinthians against Peel. Peel struggling a little bit in the combination league, but let these young players flow, let them sort of expand their knowledge of Manx football. It's happening. Corinthians are the same. I'll go for Corinthians to win. Foxtel against Ayr. I have to go with Ayr United. I think they're 4th in the league and going well. Moran against Ramsey. They're sneaking up. Ramsey keeping pressure at the top because I think it's going to be them and Russian that challenge it there. Russian against Onken. I know Onken is the game of the day, isn't it? Onken top of the league. Absolutely flying, but Russian United, I've seen their team and there's some big players in there. I'm going to go for Russian with home advantage just to sneak it. And Union Mills against St George's. They're just on the edge of a team, St George's. I think they've got 10, so hopefully the game's still on. Hopefully they'll get a couple more players in to help them, but I think Union Mills will prove too strong.
Yeah, fingers crossed St George's can get the team they need for that particular game tomorrow. And last but certainly not least on Saturday, 5 games in Ardern and Drug Unlimited Combination 2. Yeah,
Braddon against Jim's. League tables don't lie. I'm going to go for Braddon to win. Castletown against Douglas High School Old Boys. Old Boys, just like the first team, impressive right the way through. Old Boys to take victory. Colby against Douglas Royal. I'll go with Colby. Douglas Athletic against Governors. I'm going to go for Governors just to sneak that one. And Ramsey Youth Centre against Pulrose United. I say it year in, year out. Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys seem to always have a strong combination side, and this year is no exception for them. So I go for Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys to take victory there.
And rounding things up before we move on Sunday, there's just the one game down in the Canada Life Women's League, and that's Douglas Royal versus Malou. And Tony, 2 teams, their first chance really to get points on the board this season, yet to record any at the moment.
Malou did it last week, Rob. I think you might have missed that one because they beat
Must have missed the table there. So
there
we go, a correction. Do apologise.
It was absolutely brilliant. And Douglas Royal, you just think, let's see if we can get a team out here because, again, they're nearly got a team together. We're working now, Rob, on this new Floodlit Cup competition. So all clubs, you're keen, any club out there who can get sort of 7-9 women together to play in the 7-side competition. There's going to be 2 leagues, so you're not going to be fazed by it all. Just give Simon a ring at the FA and we'll get it sorted for you. It's important. This is a turning point, I feel, for women's football if we're going to get it there. And certainly this one is part of the league system. Douglas Royal against Malou. I'm going to go for 2-2 for Malou, and I don't think I've ever said that, so well done to the girls there.
Yeah, the new Floodlit Cup format. We'll come to that another time, but an attempt to make it women's football more accessible to more people.
We've got to try something, Rob.
We'll come to that another time. Well, Tony alluded to it before. We do have another footballing guest in the studio today, and he's tasked with some of the most talented players in the top flight at the moment, and we'll be hoping that they can push up the table in the weeks to come. Joined by Laxey first team manager Johnny Palmer. Johnny, very good evening.
Good evening, Rob. Good evening, Tony.
And I suppose, as I always ask at this point, it's several games into the season now. If you had to summarise it quite quickly, what's gone well? What would you like to maybe see improving going forward?
I think, to be honest with you, this season's a bit deja vu in the respect that Ayr and Peel seemingly are going to disappear at the top. The clubs that struggle a little bit are going to struggle again a little bit, and everyone else in between beats everybody else in between. That's certainly what we've found. I mean, you look at, we beat Union Mills 5-0. The week after we go and get beat 5-0, and then the week after that, Foxdale, who beat us, get beat by Onken, and it's just unpredictable. You just cannot look. And I mean, trying to guess the Railway Cup for bar the top 2 is nigh on impossible.
Is that a good advert, though, in some ways for the league, that even though, like, you think that the likes of Peel and Ayr United may just start to move away, as has sometimes been the case in the last couple of seasons, that shows the competitive nature of what's going on in behind that at the moment?
Yeah, I dare say. Again, you don't see many players moving around, so it's same squads, same teams. You should get the same results, but you don't. Why that is, I dare say it's down to being amateur footballers. It's the whole consistency levels aren't there. But we beat Union Mills, to repeat myself, and then lose to Foxdale in the same 5-0. Like, that shouldn't happen, but it does. And this week, looking at the fixtures this week, to predict what on earth is going on, it again would be damn near impossible. I mean, you'd fancy Ayr, Laxey St Mary's, flip of a coin. Onken Russian, flip of a coin. Peel Corinthians, on form, you fancy Peel. Ramsey Moran, Ramsey should win that. Geordie's Union Mills, you'd fancy Union Mills, but you just don't know.
Now, since the start of last season, I think some people looked in at the players that yourselves brought in at Laxey and thought, wow, these are some great local players that you've brought in, and some people had you tipped for quite big things. Now, it didn't quite materialise that way in terms of the league, but if you were to try and reach that level, what else do you need? What are the missing pieces at the moment?
Again, go back to that word, it's consistency. We need consistency in everything. We need a consistent squad. I'm changing numbers here, there and everywhere, and I keep a record of who's in each squad each week, and it startles me how many changes. I mean, I can't speak for other managers, but I'm making 3-4 changes a week. Every week, he's away, or he's injured, or he's at FC Isle of Man. For whatever reason, I seem to be swapping and changing, which doesn't help.
Well, that brings me on quite nicely to my next question. Is like you've just mentioned there, you have had to go through the rotation of squad quite regularly. If you're looking at some players that are in the FC Isle of Man setup at the moment, when you look at the likes of Ethan Hawley, we've had the likes of Joe Walters and Adam Meelan in there in the past, and that's just to name a couple. Ben Wasser as well has been part of the setup in the last few months and going into this season as well. So what can you do on your side of things to try and get a more consistent setup? Is it almost out of your hands a little bit, or do you feel that you have most of the control?
I don't think as managers we have any control, for the simple reason, if we play really, really well and our players are playing at the top of their game, the eyes are going to be on them. And Tony alludes to Nathan Little at Corinthians. At the start of the season, would I have said Nathan would have got into FC Isle of Man? Probably not. But his form has took him to a point where the eyes are on him, and all of a sudden he's gone now, and that makes Corinthians a little weaker. Now, rightly or wrongly, I personally don't think that should be allowed, but we do allow it. For whatever reason, it seems to be okay for one club to take players off other clubs, but we have to suffer the consequences.
Well, finally, we've got just a couple of moments just to wrap it up there. But like you say, some of the challenges you face as a manager throughout the season, some of the things you feel you've done right so far. I mean, what is the goal coming towards the end of the calendar year? We've spoken to a couple of managers already in a similar position to yourselves, and contending for the likes of a Railway Cup spot seems to be something that comes up time and time again. Do you think that would be a fair target for the squad that you've got?
To be honest with you, I think anyone down to Russian, which is 10th, should be looking at Railway Cup. We should all be if you're not looking at Railway Cup, then you lack ambition, and I certainly don't lack ambition. Would I think? Obviously, we go down the route of being very cliched by saying Saturday's the only thing I'm really bothered about, which is true. The Railway Cup will take care of itself, but you do take a look and you go, well, if you're in the Railway Cup at halfway, you got a chance of winning the league. So everyone who's in that league, if you don't have the ambition to win the league, you shouldn't be a manager.
Well, on that note, Johnny, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to speak with us, and best of luck for the weekend as well and for the rest of the season. Moving on, and whilst last month provided plenty of joy for FC Isle of Man, the start to October has been less than ideal for the Ravens. Well, after a home defeat to Ramsbottom United last weekend and a heavy loss away at Cheadle Town in midweek, the Island team will be hoping to avoid a third straight defeat when they host Padiham in the NWCFL Premier Division tomorrow night. FC Isle of Man manager Paul Jones wasn't in the dugout for his side's 4-0 drubbing at Cheadle 3 days ago. Well, as he prepares to return to the touchline this weekend, he explains how he and the players are hoping to provide a good response this Saturday.
There's a danger that you overreact to stuff like that. I think the most disappointing thing was that when we've lost this season, it's not been by more than one goal, and to concede 4 and not register any ourselves was a little bit, it took us aback a little bit, I think. But then when you dissect things a little bit, if you need to, then we're all right. Like there's things that kind of happen in that game around that game that maybe aren't going to be normal for us, and we're not going to overthink it and overanalyze it. It was everyone has a bad day at the office, so to speak, and we're going to make sure that that doesn't happen on Saturday, and move past it very quickly. If that becomes a trend or a pattern, then maybe we need to think far more carefully about things. But obviously Alex and I have debriefed, Gaz and I have, myself and some of the players have as well. So we recognise that maybe we all weren't quite at our best, and Cheadle, who were a very good side on their day, had their day, and that was what it was, and we move on hopefully very quickly and rebound against Padiham on Saturday.
And speaking of Saturday, back on home soil up against Padiham, one of the very strong sides of the last campaign. Do you think the fact that of how strong your opposition can be and the challenges they've given you at times over the past couple of seasons is extra incentive to raise the game and bounce back?
Yeah, I know the players really well by this stage, and I think again one of the things that probably disappointed us all, including them, was that we didn't offer as much as we thought we could have done to get back into the game. Every game's been close this season, and we've shown really good fighting spirit, and maybe we didn't see that as much as we'd like to on Wednesday night, and certainly in terms of our quality in the final third. So yeah, Padiham are always a tough team. We've got a good kind of relationship with them as a club, and I get on well with their assistant manager, and we chat every now and again about things. So they're a top club. They're pushing towards getting into the playoffs this year, as they were last year, and they didn't have a great start to the season, but have really found some good form like we did through September, and they've not lost the last 2 coming into this game like we have, so it'll be a really, really difficult game. A team bang up for it and in form, and we are going to treat the game as a great opportunity to really test ourselves and get back to performing at a high level, as well as hopefully winning the game of football. So we've got a lot of players that are really confident and really in a good place, and part of my job is making sure I get the right mix on the pitch at any one time to make sure we all have a strong performance, and we can hopefully beat a really tough Padiham team on Saturday.
Although you've had much less home games than away games at this particular stage, you've only won 1 home game so far this season. So what would a victory this weekend, if you can get it, mean to, well, not just the supporters who you've consistently praised for how they get behind you, but also maybe the players as well?
I think it's important. Our home form is important this season and will be very important this season. And I think we've played well in every game we've had at home so far, and the results haven't quite gone our way. I expect a good performance, and if we can turn the bowl into this kind of fortress and a place where we're really confident and we enjoy playing and the supporters get behind us, it could really work in our favour this season. And we're aware of the phase that we're going into. It's been a busy kind of 2 months. It's taken a lot out of everybody, but we've tried to manage the players to conserve as much energy as possible over these last 2 months while we've been travelling and playing so many games away. So when we do come into this kind of middle part of the season, we've still got lots of energy, and we can take advantage of the Saturday to Saturday schedule that we've got, so we can work really hard in training, keep getting better at being us. And then we've got a good run of home games certainly before Christmas, but then especially after Christmas, where we really need to make the most of it. So yeah, it is an important game. It's an important game for lots of reasons, but one of which is that the players really start to find their feet and confidence playing in front of the home crowd.
FC Isle of Man manager Paul Jones ahead of his side's home tie in the NWCFL Premier Division against Padiham tomorrow night. 6 o'clock kick-off at the Bowl, and if you're not heading down to the Bowl yourself, we at Manx Radio have got you covered. We'll be bringing you full live match commentary on Manx Radio, DAB and AM 1368 from just before 6 p.m. tomorrow. Well, before we move our attention to rugby matters going forward, Tony, just a quick one on FC Isle of Man. You were actually full of positives really for FC Alaman's performance in that narrow defeat against Ramsbottom United last weekend. But from the accounts that I have heard about the game in midweek, beaten all ends up. So important to get a response there. They don't want it to be a third straight defeat this weekend.
No, they definitely don't. And they've been playing really well, haven't they? And they were climbing up that league. But last week's second half performance was superb, I thought. They really went up a gear. We talked about it right the way through the first half. Can they find something in the second period? And they did. And it was great to see. And they scared the living daylights out of them, which, I think is important for FC Isle of Man, because if they're going to get out of this league, they've got to do it in a bit of style and just keep pushing. Sean Dawes coming back in. Charlie Higgins, I want Charlie to find the form that he's had over the last couple of years, because when he's terrorising down that left-hand side, Steve Whitley hopefully will be back in, and he terrorises down that right-hand side. It just opens up things for us. But, when you look at that chance that Alex Maitland had in the last 2 or 3 minutes, if he finished that off, we'd be having a different conversation, wouldn't we? But midweek, whatever went wrong, I looked at the squad, there was 1 or 2 new players in, but it didn't happen for them. And not to score, I heard Paul's interview, will have upset him and upset the team, because we always look like scoring, but whatever was wrong on Wednesday, as he says, put it behind them and move on. And it's a great chance against a good side tomorrow to put it all right in front of a good crowd.
And just very quickly, got about 60 seconds here, but that brings me on to Paul Jones has consistently said consistency is what's maybe just held them back from contending towards the top there. So they need to find a way, do you feel, of bouncing back after these little setbacks just a bit more often when these, as they put it, blips occur?
Yeah, this is character building, isn't it? This is for them, because when you think of it, this is their 4th season now in this, and they're learning all the time, and different players are coming in and challenging the players that are already in there. I think you've seen this year that it's not the 11 that he sort of picks isn't set in stone. And if a player's playing in good form, he'll bring him in. Doesn't matter who he is, big name or not. But it's just, 1 or 2 key players at the moment who are sort of been struggling with a bit of injury. Dean Pennington is massive, I think, for FC Isle of Man in that centre midfield. And Dean's not being available. But, it's still great. 9th? So don't panic.
7th in the table
is
going
it?
into this
Don't
weekend.
panic and just keep sort of pushing on it. But it's, as you say, consistency, and they've been playing well.
Tony, thank you very much indeed. And Tony will be joining us Saturday live. We'll be providing reports on the local game before joining myself in the commentary booth. FC Isle of Man versus Padham, 6 o'clock tomorrow. Manx Radio DAB and AM1368. And thank you once again to Laxey first team manager Johnny Palmer for joining us this evening. We're going to be speaking to our rugby correspondent Dave in a few moments to talk about a busy rugby schedule coming up this weekend. That's to come in a few moments.
Manx Radio Sport.
Welcome back to Friday Sport Preview on Manx Radio. We're going to be turning our attention to rugby matters now, on a busy schedule this weekend. And after a little bit of a break for some of the teams competing, in the leagues across, they return to action in their respective competitions this weekend. We've got a double header at Ballafletcher as part of this weekend. Douglas are on their travels, and also the Manx Shield is once again in action. To go through it all is our rugby correspondent Dave Christian. Dave, did you enjoy your trip away last week?
I did. It was refreshing. It's probably the best way to describe it.
Fantastic. Excellent. Well, let's turn our attentions to what is, as I've just mentioned, a very busy weekend indeed, with all the teams returning to action in the English Club Championships under that umbrella, if you like. Douglas, they're going to be on the road in Regional 2 Northwest. They're coming up against a Sandbach side who, after the first 4 games, are in form at the moment. Douglas, 1 win from their opening 4, albeit with 4 bonus points that they've picked up along the way. How tough a task is this against a Sandbach side that are still within touching distance of Furwood Waterloo at the top?
Well, the first thing, I guess, for Douglas and Sandbach is the two have never met before in league competition. That's unusual, given the close proximity that Sandbach have to Cheshire and the Northwest. It's really strange to find that they've not met, but no, they haven't. Sandbach have been historically in the slightly lower leagues. I can recall a Ramsey trip to Sandbach a few years ago towards the end of the season where Ramsey needed a win and they came away with a draw, which cost them a title. Finished second place, got promoted, but they were a gritty bunch. I've also been to Sandbach for I think a Cheshire Cup final or Cheshire Plate final with Southern Nomads. So it's a pretty hospitable place. I'm sure Douglas won't be out of place, but you're right. It's been a problematical start for them this season, but the last home performance with a big win against
Vale of Loon.
Vale of Loon, yeah. I mean, that was second half. There was just no answer for Vale of Loon. And if that is the turning point for Douglas's season, then things could be looking up for them. New player as well, Nathan Robson, just transferred from Ramsey. He'll be on the bench, I think, to start, but he was hoping to get a run out against Vale of Lune, but there was some paperwork problems with his registration. He couldn't get on. The rest of the team against Vale performed brilliantly. The front row in particular, Ralph Clark, Gerhard Vizagi and Simon Hoddenot. They had 3 tries between them. I think Vizagi got 2, Hoddenot got 1. That was really, really good. So lots of positives for Douglas. Fingers crossed for them away at Sandbach.
Well, I can, just before we move on, I'll actually give you the starting 15 for Douglas. So we've got Ralph Clark, Gerhard Vizagi, Simon Hoddenot, the captain Blake Snell, Connor Garland, Wilf Hewson, Percy Hampton, Harry Cartwright, Carl Martin, Nathan Robson, Wilf Kermode, James Ross, Harry Hewson, Callum Dentith and Sam McCord, and the 3 substitutes, Carl Markleferns, Phil Kringle and Lewin Scarf. So Phil Kringle, the coach, player coach again this weekend with that trip to Sandbach in mind. Well, there's going to be, as I mentioned before, a double header of games at Ballafletcher, starting off Vagabonds men, for example. It's been a tough start for them in Counties 3 ADM Lancs Cheshire, and it looks like it's not going to get too much easier for them back on home turf up against Salford-based De La Salle.
Yeah, De La Salle were up at level 6, which was just one below Douglas back in 2017. And they actually had a promotion playoff against Douglas down at Portishead. We covered it for Saturday Live at the time. So I had a quick flick back through my old notes last night and I found it. So De La Salle have played at a much higher level. They've been going really well at the start of this season. They're up there near the top end of the table, and I think Vagabonds could well struggle. De La Salle, I think, if my memory serves me correctly, were relegated last season. So if they've kept that same nucleus of players together, they're almost semi-accustomed to playing at a higher level. Vaggers struggled away at Colne and Nelson a fortnight ago. They've had 2 weeks to lick their wounds and try and build back up for that. They were missing a couple of players. Joe Lowe unable to play that week, and in the back row Tom Gascoigne was missing as well. They're a couple of very experienced players for Vagabonds, and their missing on an away game is probably an indicator of the problems that Vagabonds have been facing with their player base. But home fixture, I think kick-off is at 1:30, if my memory serves me correctly, up there at Ballafletcher. We'll be there to cover it for Saturday Live, and we'll give you all the news as it happens.
Well, here is the Vagabonds team to play De La Salle tomorrow. It is Joe Lowe, Matthew Rockwell, Mitch Wells, John Ferguson, Ryan Pope, and then we've got Gav Turnbull, Tom Gascoigne, Matty Jones, the captain, Daniel Bonwick, then it's Rhys McAllister, Archie Benson, Cal Donnell, Rob Pease, Cam Finlay, and Regan Williams, and 3 substitutes for Vagabonds men tomorrow. They are Lewis Horton Casella, Jed Snell, and Harvey Collister, Francie Gamishis, Darren Thompson, and Mike Hewson, the coaches on the bench for that one. And of course, Vagabonds Ladies also in action, back on home turf this weekend, I should say, if I can get my words out.
Yeah, we spoke to Coach Jack Kane 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think it was now, ahead of their first away match at Lee. And Jack was, at the time, positive. He was looking for a good result. He was also considering where they might be looking at the end of the season. When you asked him, I think he said the promotion places were his target. And they went away to Lee and took a very big defeat from a team that they've been historically very close to. That sort of put the writing on the wall a little bit for me. This weekend, however, there's some players coming back into the fold. Jules Harrison, who's been so important for them in the last 5 years or so with straight running and try scoring, Jules was going to come back into that team, and she's going to make a big difference in the back line. Depends how she's returned to fitness. I'm not going to question her fitness because it's bound to be better than mine, but will Jules be match ready is a difficult question. Sophie Henry also coming into the back row of the scrummage. Sophie's going to help a lot as well. She carries a lot of ball, breaks a lot of tackles, and is capable of scoring her tries at close range through the forwards. So 2 big players coming back into the team. You've got to fancy their chances at home. Eccles were the team that they beat at the last game of last season. to give them their first win of the season, and they'd had a very difficult transition season. So 1:45 kick-off for the ladies. That again is at Ballafletcher. I'll be stood in between the two pitches, and we'll get updates from both games as the afternoon progresses.
I think your neck will be getting a workout. You'll be turning here, there and everywhere to keep an eye on both of those. Well, Vagabonds Ladies, so their team for tomorrow, Dave has mentioned a couple of names there. It is Lois Mooney, Maisie Murray, Becca Hicks, and then it's Georgina Quayle, Kristen Kaur, Iona Lee, who Dave has mentioned looking to make a debut with Vagabonds Ladies tomorrow. Then it's Sophie Henry, Maylin Campbell, Sammy McDonald, Becky Dunn, Jules Harrison and Leona McGovern, and then Charlotte Hurd, Bliss Murtaugh and Holly Shea. And there are 5 substitutes for Vagas Ladies. They are Freya Crow, Hannah Kissack, Triona Kelly, Sharon McCarrick and also Chloe Dillon as well. That match taking place against Eccles tomorrow at Ballafletcher in that doubleheader that Dave's going to be covering. And last but certainly not least, Dave, we have a game in domestic competition as well in the Manx Shield. Ramsey, who had to concede their fixture in the Cheshire competition last weekend, up against Western Vikings over at Morwick Park.
Yeah, I mean, Western Vikings haven't played yet this season. Everybody at Ramsey's extremely frustrated by the fact that it's now coming into the second week in October and they've only played 2 games. The guys are raring to go. They've named a full-strength team as well. I think pretty much there's maybe 1, maybe 2 players potentially missing. Connor Goodall's back into the squad. He's been out for a few weeks. Brandon Atchison comes back in. He missed the trip down to Southern Nomads. Yes, they're missing Nathan Robson, who's gone to Douglas, but Danny Howard's going to come in at scrum half, and he may not have Nathan Robson's all-round scrum half play, but he does have exceptional speed, and if he spots a half gap, he'll be through it before Western Vikings can cover. Interestingly, you mentioned that Harvey Collister on the bench for Vagabonds. He's normally with Western Vikings, so there's another player who's moving around the season to try and get games. Vikings have indicated that they will have a full team, so the game will go ahead. There'll be no cancellation of this one. But they've also indicated that they will struggle for next week because they're scheduled to play Ramsey at Peel next Saturday. And that's not going to take place. We've got to haggle out a date for that one. So Vikings have got no form to gauge them by, but they need their game time if they're going to make any sort of progress in the Cheshire competition. And I think they're due to play Southern Nomads on the 26th in the Cheshire Bowl competition. So Vikings need the game time and they need it quickly. And at the moment, they look to be struggling. So I've got to pick Ramsey to win that one.
More to come, hopefully, there. Dave, our rugby correspondent, thank you very much indeed. Ahead of a busy day of rugby action coming up this weekend. We're going to be turning our attention to hockey next. We'll be back in just a couple of moments.
Manx Radio Sport.
Whether you're fitting out a business office or looking for a stylish home office, you'll find excellent choice at Office World, the island's largest display showroom of office furniture, with a huge array of desk configurations including height adjustable and bench options, plus seating in mesh, fabric and vinyl finishes, along with a myriad of storage solutions, from filing cabinets to bookcases and cupboards. Find all this and so much more at Office World on Spring Valley Industrial Estate.
Office World.
Ellen Vannin Fuels make it so easy to keep topped up with home heating oil this winter with our smart tank monitoring system, easy payment plans, and being able to manage your account online. Call us on 844 000. Stay warm this winter with Ellen Vannin Fuels.
It's the perfect time to plant spring bulbs and winter pansies, and there's a wide range available at Ramsey Garden Centre, plus a full range of garden essentials for indoor and out, including battery lights. Visit Ramsey Garden Centre, open 7 days a week.
When you need a fitting memorial or headstone for a loved one, contact Manx Memorials in Peel. This long-standing family-run Manx company offer a wide range of granite and marble headstones and memorials, along with an island-wide inscription and renovation service. Manx Memorials skilled professionals will take the time to help you choose a suitable memorial, and we're proud to say we'll beat other local quotes. Call 843 861 or email matthew@manxmemorials.co.uk.
Here at Q Plus, we're not just blue, we're green. From smart boilers to heat pumps, Q Plus supply products from the leading brands in renewable energy for a cleaner, greener home. So call into Q Plus on Snugborough Trading Estate, the island's largest independent plumbing and heating merchants for trade and retail. Or call 673 131 to talk to our friendly experts about the latest cost-effective products in home heating and find out what we can do for you at Q Plus.
Isle of Man Railways.
Spice up your week when you join the Curry Club on the dining car. Running on selected Fridays throughout the season, gather family and friends to enjoy a rainbow of spices in a range of authentic homemade curries and a delicious selection of desserts on the return journey. It's a great experience for all curry lovers. For more information, visit rail.im or call 697 457.
Isle of Man Railways.
Manx Radio Sport.
Turning our attention now to hockey, and all the spotlight last weekend was on the opening fixtures of the respective cup competitions. Some great games that took place, but the attention turns once again to the mixed leagues, and once again games across all four senior divisions this Saturday, starting from 11 o'clock in the morning and running throughout the afternoon, as well as three more games in the mixed under-15s league, which continues to be very tightly contested in the early stages of the season. We'll take a look through some great fixtures again coming up this weekend is our hockey correspondent Ben Cunningham. Ben, very good evening.
Good evening.
Let's take a look through those fixtures that are going to be taking place this weekend. We'll start with the Mixed Premier League. 4 games there, and 3 of those games are pushing back at 12:35. We'll start with the game at the NSC and a battle of the B teams, and a particularly important one possibly going forward for these two B teams. Vikings B versus Backers B, both looking to keep trying to move away from the foot of the table, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, Backers B yet to get points on the board. However, Vikings B have got a win and points on the board. So Vikings B definitely are probably going to come into this one favourites. However, Backers B will be wanting to make sure that they can get something out of this game. But I think Vikings B are going to come out on top on this one. So Vikings B win.
Then at Castle Rushen High School at the same time, Castletown Celts 4th in the table after 4 games. A mixed bag, 2 wins and 2 defeats from their opening 4. They're going to be on home soil over a Valkyries B side, yet to get points on the board. They're finding it a struggle at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, Valkyries B still struggling to find their feet in the Premier League, but they are giving a good account of themselves. However, Castletown Celts, when you look at the 2 fixtures they've lost them to 2 teams which are in the top of the league, and they're the teams that they're going to be playing against. So it's going to be a hard one for Valkyries B, definitely, because I think Castletown Celts are just going to be a really strong outfit on the day tomorrow. So I'm going to go for a Castletown Celts win.
And the other game at 12:35 in the Mixed Premier League is at King William's College, and that sees Valkyries A, so the defending champions. They're unbeaten on a 100% record at the top alongside Backers A and Vikings A. Well, Valkyries A, they could have a potentially tricky test here against the Harlequins Mixed A side that have already got a victory on the board this season.
Yeah, and last season, when we were looking back at the results last season, for Harlequins were Valkyries A's bogey team, if you'd like to put it that way. Basically, they caught Valkyries out, so they drew, and then they beat Valkyries. So there's a lot at stake in this game, definitely. And I mean, Harlequins have been performing really well. However, Valkyries A, though, had that massive defeat last weekend in the Cup, and hopefully it's not hurt them too much. But if they can put that aside and get back to focusing on keeping their title, then definitely they'll be wanting to get the win out of this one. It's going to be a close one, this one, I think.
And the other game in the Mixed Premier League, well, it looks like we saved the best to last on paper. 2:05 at the NSC, the meeting of 2 Douglas rivals, and it is 2 of those top 3 sides on 100% records. Someone's 100% record, at least one side has to go. Backers A versus Vikings A, Ben, and you were so adamant this is the game you're going to this weekend, and I don't blame you.
Yeah, this is the game we're going to cover for Saturday Live, 2 o'clock at the NSC. So if you're looking for something to do, by all means do get down to this game, because it's going to be an absolute thriller. And I mean, I put it in my report, which is on Manx Radio's website. This game has such a high tempo, and it always either comes down to a late goal for one side to take the win, or just either side cannot be split. It's going to be a thriller, this one.
Yeah, I can say from personal experience, having played in a few of those games, they're great spectacles to be part of. Moving on to Mixed Division 1, 3 games. The early pushback at 11 at the NSC is the current Mixed Division 1 leaders, Bacchus C, up against a Vikings C side looking to try and move away from the foot of the table. Second from bottom at the moment.
Yeah, Bacchus C flying high at the top. Vikings C, of course, trying to avoid being in that relegation battle. At the minute, they are in that relegation battle with their D team, so it's a bit hotting up in the Vikings camp, absolutely. Yeah. So, this is going to be a tough game. Vikings C will want to get something out of it, but I think Bacchus C are going to extend their lead at the top of the league.
And speaking of Vikings D at the bottom of the table there, task doesn't get any easier. 12:35 at QE2, they're up against one of Bacchus C's contenders, Castown Southerners.
Yeah, and Castown Southerners are just sat there waiting in case Bacchus C either lose tomorrow or they have a little slip up. Absolutely. Castown Southerners are there ready to pounce to take that top spot off them. Vikings D, though, they'll be hoping that they can try and get something out of this game, but I think Castown Southerners are going to be too strong for them on the day.
And the last game in Mixed Division 1, 12:35, up at Ramsey Grammar School in the north of the island, sees Ramsey A versus Valkyrie C. Two teams in mid-table at the moment, Ben, but should they pick up a couple of results, could find themselves in a very nice position indeed going forward.
Yeah, both sides have had pretty much the same start to the season as each other, so this could be a really close game. However, I think Ramsey are slowly starting to find their feet again and starting to look like the good old Ramsey A that we know, so I'm going to go for a Ramsey A win.
Well, very quickly, we've got around a minute and a half or so here. If we could just take a quick look through the 3 games in Mixed Division 2.
Yep, first one is at 2:05, and that's Ramsey Ravens against Valkyries D at QE2. I'm going to go for a Valkyries D win there. 2:05 again, Castown Camags against Bacchus Colts at Castle Rushen High School. I'm going to go for a Bacchus Colts win. And then 3:35, Harlequins B against Castown Cushags at Castle Rushen High School. And I'm going to go for a Harlequins B win.
And rounding up the Senior League's 3 games in Mixed Division 3 on Saturday as well.
Yeah, the first one is at 11:05, and that's Harlequins C against Vikings Z, and that's at QE2. I'm going to go for a Harlequins C win there. Second game, 11:05, Castown Cosney against Bacchus Mixed Bucks at Castle Rushen High School. This one I think will be very close because Bacchus Mixed Bucks really have made a strong statement, and they're playing Castown Cosney, who are top. This could be a really close game. I think Cosney might just get it though. And then finally at 2:05 we have Ramsey Rookies against Castown Carags at Ramsey Grammar School. This is going to be a very evenly matched game, and it could come down to just one goal between either side. I can't pick. I'm on the fence.
Very well, and last but certainly not least, we've got 3 games in the Mixed Under-15s League. All 3 I should say, late pushbacks at 3:35.
Yeah, all 3:35. So the first one's at the NSC, and that's Bacchus against Vikings. And then the second is Castown Sharks against Harlequins at QE2. And then the final fixture is Castown Savers against Ramsey at Ramsey Grammar School.
Ben Cunningham, our hockey correspondent there. Thank you very much indeed. And Ben will be at that mixed Premier League match between Bacchus A and Vikings A. Someone's undefeated record has to go towards the top there. Could be a great game. 2:05 at the NSC.
Manx Radio Sport.
Well, after 8 months out of the ring, Isle of Man pro boxer Jamie Devine is returning to action in Liverpool this weekend. The Island fighter, who boasts an unbeaten pro record so far of 4 wins and no defeats, will take on Lithuanian contender Seimas Volosinas at Grand Central Hall on Sunday night. Well, having missed his last bout in July due to injury, Jamie spoke to me going into this weekend and explained he's feeling fresh and ready to make a statement.
Yeah, good, mate. I've been training hard for the past well over 12 weeks, to be honest. Obviously, I haven't fought since April, so I've had a few months off, but obviously still being in the gym. But yeah, I've had a solid 3 months, and I honestly cannot wait to get going again, mate. Yeah.
Now, you were due to fight in July, but you had to pull out at the last minute because you were nursing a minor injury and wanted to take a bit more time to recover. How much do you feel you've been able to maybe benefit from that slightly longer time to recover?
Yeah, because obviously when I turned pro, I had so many fights in a short space of time, so I was just picking up little niggles, and I was having a week off after a fight and then going straight back into camp, so I wasn't really recovering very well from my injuries. So I had to listen to my body, mate, more than anything, and just rest up, recover properly, just get that hunger back. And I've had a nice little summer off, and I'm more than ready to get back to it now.
The fact that you did have quite a few fights in what you describe as a short period of time. Do you think that was beneficial in some ways?
Yeah, definitely, mate. Obviously, I got my name out there straight away, and it was my choice more than anything. I was putting myself out there to the promotion, and if it was my way, and if I was injury free, I still would have continued that, mate. To be honest, but yeah, like I said, I need to listen to my body. I had a couple of weeks out of the gym. I was still ticking over nicely, but yeah, I've recovered well. I've had a nice little summer, been on a couple of holidays, and then yeah, I'm just more than ready to go again, mate. Yeah,
it's been around a year or so since you first turned professional.
Just over a year it is, mate.
Yeah, just over a year. So, and like you said, you've had quite a few fights in that time as well. In this, let's call it the early stages of being in the pro ranks, what are the biggest lessons you've learnt in the ring so far?
Just the preparation, mate, more than anything, getting yourself ready. And obviously, it's a different game to the amateurs, but I think I've adapted well more than anything, mate. Yeah, and I'm proper enjoying it, if I'm honest. And hopefully next year I can start chasing more titles and bigger fights.
And on top of that as well, how are you finding that, I suppose, the work-life balance within the pro side of things? Sometimes it can be a difficult transition depending on people's circumstances. How have you found that over the last 12 months?
Yeah, the biggest thing is for me at the minute is obviously I'm still working full-time as an electrician, so I'm doing 40, 50 plus hours a week, obviously training most nights for 2 hours. So obviously further down the line when I start doing more rounds, and I'll have to commit myself more to the training. So ideally, I need to get some sponsors lined up. So I'm obviously looking for sponsorship opportunities for any businesses out there that are interested, so I can obviously commit myself to training full time.
Let's look back towards the immediate now and the fight this weekend. What, if anything, do you know about your latest opponent?
I know he's been around the block a few times, but I don't know too much about him. I've watched a few clips on YouTube, but yeah, he's experienced, strong. That's all I know really, mate. But yeah, whoever it is, I'm going to do the damage. I want to get the win, no matter what.
And what's the approach? I'm not going to ask you to give away any, I suppose, secrets of the camp, but are you looking to just try and get things steady, or are you looking to maybe go for something a little more explosive this time around, or some sort of mixture of the two?
Just trying to stay composed to start off with. But yeah, I'm going to just work off my jab, look for openings, and then there will definitely be openings. So once I do get a sniff, mate, I'm gonna be right on it.
And fine as well, if you were to get the result you wanted this weekend, where would you hope to go next from there? Or have you not even looked that far ahead yet?
Yeah, obviously I'm not overlooking this opponent, mate, but I want to try and get out again in December if my promotion, I've got another show lined up. But yeah, so hopefully get out in December. And again, I want a really busy year next year, and obviously stepping up opponents, and hopefully get a title further down the line.
That's Isle of Man pro boxer Jamie Devine ahead of his latest pro bout at Grand Central Hall in Liverpool this Sunday, the 13th of October, looking to try and make it 5 straight wins in the professional ranks after making his pro debut in October last year. Well, that's about all we have time for this week on Friday Sport Preview. Thank you very much for joining us once again, and thank you to my guests as always. And don't forget, if you want to catch up with anything from this programme, it will be available as a podcast on the Manx Radio website shortly after. And don't forget, of course, as well, you can catch all of the latest Isle of Man sports news at the Manx Radio Sports Hub at manxradio.com. Well, all that's left for me to say is have yourself a wonderful Friday evening, whatever you're doing, and have a wonderful weekend as well. Chris Kinley's here with you next, but from me, it's bye for now.
Manx Radio Sport.